Wow, all it took was new board members for everybody to cooperate and be sitting in your chairs so nice and quietly. Wow, it's pretty amazing. Well, thank y'all. Thank y'all very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 10:30 a.m. I ask that as a courtesy to all that you ensure that you have silenced your cell phones. Also, I would like to remind the board of directors to turn their microphone on each time that you are speaking to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of the board meeting was provided to each of the directors. At this time, I would like to invite Director Huber to deliver the invocation.
Would you pray with me, please? Our Heavenly Father, we're extremely grateful for all the blessings you've bestowed on us. So many we can't even count them, but we thank you for them. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to meet these new board members. We pray, Lord, that they will enjoy what they're doing and really be happy to be here, and that we'll make them welcome. We thank you for this opportunity to serve the people of Texas in this capacity. We thank you for the great things this board does and this wonderful staff does. Lord, we are very concerned and pray your hand upon those who are affected by the flooding in the hill country and other areas in South Texas. We just ask you to be with them, minister to them, provide for them. And we pray that you would give us wisdom now as we make decisions that affect our fellow Texans, and pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Director Benham has indicated that he would not be present. Everybody else is here. I would like to welcome our new board members today. Just very quickly, we have Lonnie Key sitting right up here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Stephen Lusky from Fort Worth, my side of town. Fred Dodd and Jeff Tallis. Welcome, welcome. And then we have several that have been reappointed by the governor. If you'll just raise your hand real quick, who that, very good. Thank y'all. Now we've reached the time that we've set aside in the meeting to hear from the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards will be invited by the receptionist desk, will be invited to approach the podium to make comments. I don't have any cards up here. All right, so we are going to go ahead and move forward with the first agenda item. Discussion and possible action on fiscal year 2027, adoption of annual operating budget by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. This agenda item is going to be your final look at our fiscal year 2027 operating budget and hopefully your adoption. Before I get started, though, I want to say that this is not just something we do in F&A. This is truly a group effort throughout the entire organization. Every department works on it. But within F&A, I would like to recognize our budget manager, Cassidy Lester, and our budget analyst, Nellie Fitzgerald. They do all the heavy lifting, they bring everything together, and they help produce that wonderful document that you all received a few weeks ago. So thank you very much. So moving right along, starting with our fiscal year 27 O&M budget. On the expense side, our biggest asset and also one of our largest expense cost centers is our staff. And so on the salary and benefit side, we're looking at an employment cost index increase of 2.5%, and we're creating a merit pool of 3%. We will be adding 4 additional full-time positions, and we're going to be converting 2 part-time positions to full-time positions. In other expenses, our share of the O&M expenses for our storage in the federal reservoirs for fiscal year 27 is going to be $3.6 million. That's actually a $1.4 million decrease from fiscal year 26. Other O&M expenses, not including debt service, are increasing less than 3% from fiscal year 26 to 27. And we also anticipate issuing $59 million in debt to fund capital projects. $9 million of that is for our cost reimbursable for the Williamson County Raw Water Line. We are actually going to sell that debt tomorrow. The other anticipated $50 million is on the water supply side. And so this is a graph that just shows all of our expenses by category, and you can see the salaries and benefits. And then, yeah, there we go. Outside services also makes up a large part of that, and debt service. So in addition to our O&M budget, we have a project budget, and we have two kinds of projects. We have operating projects, and this is a list of our operating projects out for the next 5 years. Operating projects they don't create a capital asset. So they're things like studies, assessments, maybe some major repairs. And so we budget for those here, and we fund those with current revenues. We don't fund those with debt or reserves. And then on the revenue side, we are proposing a system rate for fiscal year 27 at $113 an acre foot. That's a 6.6% increase from fiscal year 26. Our non-system rate water sales are expected to stay relatively level with where they were in fiscal year 26. And other water supply revenues, interest income is expected to increase about $800,000, and that's going to be due to higher cash balances from the debt we're going to issue. And treated water sales at our East Williamson County facility are expected to increase about $700,000, and that's strictly due to increased demand. And so proposed revenues for fiscal year 27, about $108 million, and you can see the biggest part of that, half of it is our system water sales. So from our water sales, this is just a summary of all the water that we have to sell, and you can see most of it is at our system rate. That'll be $113 an acre foot. We have about 12,000 acre feet in ag. We sell that at 70% of whatever the system rate is, so that's going to be $79.10. And then we have the rest of our water sales for a total of about almost 724,000 acre feet that we have under contract for next year. And so the way we come up with our system rate is through a revenue requirement calculation. And so we start with all of our revenues that come from sources other than our system water. And then we offset that against our expenses. And then for our debt coverage, we have a debt coverage ratio of 1.3. That means whatever our debt payments are, we have to have revenue of 1.3 to cover that. And then we are making a contribution to our rate stabilization reserve, and we'll talk about that a little more later. And so that gives us a revenue requirement from our system rate of a little over $55 million. And when we divide that by the number of system rate billing units we have, that's how we get the rate of $113 an acre foot. And this is a summary of all of our lines of business, our water supply and our cost reimbursable. Cost reimbursable, we operate water and wastewater plants that are owned by different cities. They own the facility, we operate it, and they reimburse us on a dollar for dollar basis. There's a management fee associated with that, which is included in the revenues in the water supply system. So we're starting out the year with an estimated beginning working capital reserve balance of about $104 million. Our revenues, and then expenses, Operating projects, debt service will leave us a surplus roughly in the water supply of 8 million. We expect to spend about 80 million on capital projects and issue $50 million in debt, which should give us an ending reserve balance at the end of fiscal year 27 of around 82 million. And so this is how we divide those reserves out. We have several board required funds. We have a self-insurance fund of $500,000. We have a contingency fund of $5.5 million. We have a working capital reserve, which is 90 days worth of operating expenses. So that number will change every year based on our O&M budget. And then the remainder goes into our rate stabilization fund. And what we use that rate stabilization fund for is to, number one, fund these capital projects with cash as we can until our reserve balances get to a point that we need to issue debt. We also use it where we can count it as a current revenue. And that way we can keep our rates stable going forward. It keeps us from having spikes in our rate, because instead of raising the rate a bunch one year and then maybe having not so much, we try and keep that going steady. And that's the other thing we use those rate stabilization funds for. And so this is our capital improvement budget for fiscal year 27. This differs from the operating projects in that these are creating major capital assets. And so in total, 83.2 million. That includes what we're going to spend on the cost reimbursable side, the Williamson County Raw Water Line Phase 3 pump project, and that's down here. And so these are the types of projects we have, mostly new infrastructure maintenance, and new water. And this is the detail of that plan. So you see in total 83.2 million in 27, but then you see going forward in 28 and 29 and 30 and even out to 31 that those are substantial numbers on capital projects. And so this is our 5-year financial forecast. We actually have a long-range financial plan that looks out 50 years, and we're going to give you a small slice of that here. Some of the assumptions we make when we're forecasting as far as revenues go, any non-system water supply revenues, those are forecast based on existing contracts. And then we assume if any of those contracts expire, that they will convert to system water contracts. We assume that all of our ag contracts are going to renew as ag contracts. And then we assume that any revenue that is going to come from new water that is created by projects, that it's going to be sold the year after that project is completed. On the expense side, we use the current year O&M budget and we forecast it out. We use a 10-year rolling index average. We have different indexes that we use for each category of expense that we have. For our debt service, we use our existing debt schedules, and then we layer in any potential new debt that we'll be issuing. And the operating projects and the capital projects are based on the project budget worksheets that our project managers have filled out. And so this is our 5-year financial forecast. So you can see this lines up with what we've looked at for 27. But then going forward in 28, I guess the biggest thing to look at here is the capital project numbers and then the amount of debt that we'll be issuing. But then also here you can see where we're utilizing those rate stabilization reserves to try and keep that rate steady, at a steady pace going forward. This is our 90-day working capital reserve, and so I wanted to demonstrate how that goes up every year based on our O&M expenditures going up every year. So this is also the 5-year forecast. So this is the rate, and this is the amount that the rate is going up, and then these are the number of system units that the number of billing units that we expect to be at the system rate. And so if you see this big increase here in 2031, part of that is we have some utility contracts that will be expiring and hopefully will renew at the system rate. And also maybe we'll have some Lake Whitney water to sell. Below this, these are some of the financial stability tests that we run our budget through every year. So this first one is to make sure that we're making our coverage calculation. And so it shows the amount of debt that's subject to coverage, how much we have available to meet coverage, and what that ratio is. And so you can see we're meeting coverage every year. And then on our reserve test, our 90-day working capital, our contingency reserve, our self-insurance reserve, and then our ending working capital to make sure that we have enough to meet those required reserve balances. So this is our 10-year system rate forecast as of this year. Actually, I apologize. This is his 10-year history. It goes back, so you can see 113, and then projected for the next 4 years. Are there any questions?
All right. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority Board that the fiscal year 2027 annual operating plan and multi-year capital improvement plan budget as presented to the board at the July 27th, 2026 meeting be approved and adopted, including the following provisions. Be it further resolved that the general manager, CEO, is hereby authorized to make expenditures and enter into contracts for expenditures as listed in the budget in accordance with the Brazos River Authority's General Operations Practices, Policy 2.01, Authority and Responsibilities of the Board of Directors and the General Manager, Chief Executive Officer. Whoops. Did I go too far? Okay, sorry. Be it further resolved that the General Manager, CEO, is hereby authorized to make adjustments in the individual line item amounts of the budget, provided that the total amount expended shall not exceed the total amount authorized for each operating division as follows. Water supply, $79,312,122. Cost reimbursable, $16,996,211. Total operating budget, $96,308,333. Water supply, $79,864,000. Cost reimbursable, $3,342,000. Total capital budget is $83,206,000. Be it further resolved that the board hereby adopts the multi-year capital improvement plan as presented in the budget. Be it further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts a rate of $113 per acre foot of water annually for the fiscal year 2027 for both the system water rate and the interruptible water rate. Be it further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts a rate of $79.10 per acre foot of water annually for fiscal year 2027 for the agricultural water rate. Be it further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts a methodology for quarterly payments or monthly payments to include a multiplier to be applied to the annual payment to allow the Brazos River Authority to recover interest lost on any unpaid balance, plus a service charge for administrative costs, including but not limited to costs involving the billing, accounting, and collecting for the quarterly or monthly payments. Be it further resolved by the board that the methodology used to determine the multiplier consists of applying the current savings rate the Brazos River Authority would be earning on the funds if paid in full annually to the unpaid balance on a monthly or quarterly schedule to determine lost interest, and that the service charge shall remain at $20 per invoice to cover additional administrative costs for billing, accounting, and collecting the associated payments. And be it further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts an annual interest rate of 4% and a daily interest rate of 0.010959%, which is 4% divided by 365, to be applied for quarterly and monthly payments for fiscal year 27.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. A motion was made by Director Henderson, a second by Director LaChance. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Lloyd.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes.
Director Dodd.
Yes.
Director Geesey.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Key.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Lattimore.
Yes.
Director Lusky.
Yes.
Director Parks.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Second agenda item, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2026 third quarter investment report by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer.
Madam Chair, this is in your book. If anyone has any questions, would be more than willing to take them.
Any questions for Michelle? We'll move to agenda item number 3. Report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2026 third quarter budget report by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer.
We'll
Any
treat this-
discussion
Yep,
on
treat this the same
agenda
way.
item number 3? See no discussion,
Very
we'll
good.
move to agenda item number 4. Discussion and possible action on 791 Purchasing Cooperative Interlocal Agreement by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle, we're going to have you talk on this one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is another purchasing cooperative that we would like to join. It is completely free to join. These purchasing cooperatives, they go out and they solicit for bids for certain goods and services that the BRA could use. So they've already been competitively bid. And we're allowed to go in and use their services. This is the 791 Purchasing Cooperative. It's named after Texas Government Code, 791, which is the interlocal government code that allows us to do this. This is a joint cooperative between the Central Texas Council of Governments, the Region 15 Education Service Center, and the Ohio Purchasing Council. They're the lead agencies for that. This cooperative represents about 300 vendors. Like I said, they've already submitted competitive bids and been awarded contracts. It's utilized by many government agencies, educational institutions, municipal, state, county. Pre-negotiated pricing for goods and services that we currently utilize, and there's no cost for us to join. One reason that we're looking at this cooperative, sometimes we have trouble finding services in some of our more rural areas. We're spread across a very wide geographic area. We'll put things out for bid, and some of these smaller local folks don't reach out. It's not worth their time to go bid on a single, but if they know that they're gonna get a lot of work directed to them through a co-op, they'll do the work. They'll do the bid through a co-op.
Our policy requires that any interlocal agreement we enter into has to have board authority.
Does that mean that you can only purchase within the cooperative?
No, this is another tool in our toolbox. Yeah.
Any questions for Michelle? Yes, Director Warren.
Yes, ma'am. Your purchasing department, how many, out of this plus your other purchasing, what percentage would be RFPs versus just widget type bids? Do you have a breakdown of that?
If we join this will be our 12th purchasing cooperative. We have only recently started tracking how much we do, but in fiscal year 26, we spent a little over $500,000 through our 2 big co-ops. That would be the Buy Board and TIPS and Omnia. as part of the, I think some of you saw the purchasing award that our purchasing department received as part of the due diligence for that. They've set up a system for tracking everything that we spend through the
Okay.
co-ops and each
Thank you.
co-op.
Where I'm going with this is, you've heard of this, and David, you've heard of this government inflation factor they use now, or they call it municipal inflation, where the numbers are significantly a lot higher than a private sector would be. So my question would be, and it's just not a question as much as a comment, if it's possible, the only way you could deal with these purchasing programs is to have aggressive purchasers, buyers, knowing how to work the private market as good as a private company would, to try to squeeze that, quote, government municipal inflation rate down, because everyone knows when the government bids, it's just they're going to pay whatever. You know, of course, you guys here have always been uniquely different. You're very aggressive about trying to do that, and I appreciate that. But it seems like with the times we're in now, I'm hearing more and more about that. Just as a comment, I keep encouraging you to keep doing that as much as possible.
All right, Director Taylor and then Director Weldon.
I bring this up every time we have a purchasing co-op agreement, and I just want to bring it up again, just for the record, that this is for buying pencils and paper and books and desk and HVAC maintenance services, those type of things. Years ago, in South Texas, there were school districts that were using this program to build $25 to $30 million schools. And what they were doing is they'd hire they'd use this service to hire a contractor to do the grading dirt work, and another one to do this, and they just built the components, and they built a $30 million school. And when they got through, they realized they didn't have a warranty on the entire project because there wasn't a general contractor. They didn't have a bond on the project in case somebody went broke because there wasn't a general contractor. My point is, these are to buy widgets and parts and pieces, not 40, 50, $60 million buildings. Now, they're perfectly applicable for replacing the windows in a building. If you need to replace the windows in one of the small buildings we have, this is probably a very appropriate thing. But having been in that business for a long time, I just wanted to bring this up. This is not to build buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Weldon.
Not to be too parochial, but could you explain the responsibility or authority that Ohio has in this as far as purchasing? You said they were a sponsor. What does that mean?
Yeah, I believe, I thought that was a little odd too, that Ohio was in there, but I think they've just, their council has worked together. Some of these vendors aren't just local, some of them are nationwide vendors. And so they paired together, and so for the nationwide vendors, Texas entities can use it, and so can Ohio.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments for Michelle? Yes, Dr. Reese.
Is this for better buying power, like purchasing power? Because I used to belong to an optometry purchasing group like this, and it was supposedly bring our costs down because instead of I'm just buying one thing, it's like 500,000 doctors buying the same thing, and it would theoretically bring the cost down. Is that what this is too?
I think it's twofold. I think that's one of them, but it's also to expose us to more vendors who could possibly, provide goods or services that we need. If we're doing some dirt work down in Austin County for Allens Creek to put in our new office, and we put a bid on our website or on BidNet as one little project, a lot of folks might not see it. But if that same vendor gets an opportunity to submit a bid to a co-op where they know automatically lots of entities are going to get to see their work and their rates, they'll reply to that bid. So it opens us up to more vendors and hopefully helps reduce the prices also.
All right. Thank y'all for the discussion. Go ahead and read the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute an interlocal agreement with the 791 Purchasing Cooperative to participate in the Cooperative Purchasing Program.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Dr. Ruiz, a second by Director Huber. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes?
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lusky,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Tallis,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on the Texas Water Development Board Regional Water Planning Contract with Professional Services Agreement with Carollo Engineering by Aaron Abel, Water Services Manager. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Chair, Directors. The 7th cycle of regional water planning is kicking off with initial funding to support the development of the next round of regional water plans. I should say, many of you may say, well, what is regional water planning? So it's a bottom-up approach to develop strategies. So they look at demands, they look at existing supplies, and then they determine what the needs are and what strategies. So this is a process that's been going on for over 25 years. So we're entering the 7th cycle, and this is the start to a 5-year process, and it'll culminate in the 2031 Regional Water Plan and the 2032 State Water Plan. Last October, the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group selected BRA as the political subdivision to serve as sponsor and administrative agent for the next cycle of regional water planning. BRA has served as a sponsor and administrative agent for Brazos G since the inception of regional and state water planning process back really the late 90s. As sponsor and administrative agent of the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group, BRA was required to enter into a regional water planning contract with the Texas Water Development Board to receive grant funds to support the Brazos G Regional Water Planning process. Additionally, we must maintain a professional services agreement with a technical consultant that performs and completes the necessary tasks to compile the regional water plan. The Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group selected Carollo Engineers, Inc. as the technical consultant in this next cycle of regional water planning. So this item requests authorization to enter into and execute a regional water planning contract with the Texas Water Development Board to support the Brazos G activities, and we're also requesting authorization to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement for an amount of up to around $677,000 with Carollo Engineers, Inc. to complete the tasks identified in the regional water planning contract scope of work. I'll say that BRA provides in-kind services of approximately about $5,600 annually for administrative tasks related to Brazos G activities. The professional services and some of administrative expenses will be covered by the Texas Water Development Board grant funds for Brazos G. So this will have a zero net effect on BRA's FY 2027 budgeted ending uncommitted reserve balance, and will have no effect on the FY 2027 adopted system rate. We have a resolution, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we have a comment by Director Wilson.
Yes, he hadn't read the, excuse me, he hasn't read the resolution yet, but I support the resolution. But I wanted to notify the board that I will abstain from the vote because of my position as chair of Region G, just for perception purposes.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to enter into and execute a regional water planning contract with the Texas Water Development Board in order to support Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group activities for the 7th cycle of regional and state water planning. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement for an amount up to $676,817 with Carollo Engineers, Inc. on behalf of the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group in order to prepare the 2031 Brazos G Regional Water Plan.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Taylor and a second by Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Abstain.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lusky,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Tallis,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on pay station at Lake Granbury, De Cordova Bend Park by Dylan Mayfield, Reservoir Manager. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning. Let me interrupt. Sometimes you make good hires and sometimes you make bad hires. How long you been with us, Dylan?
Dylan, I don't know if
This is going, how long you been with us?
A year, a little over a year and a half.
We stole Dylan from the Corps. He's been a lake manager all over the state of Texas, and he's been an outstanding hire.
welcome.
Dylan Mayfield.
Good morning, presiding officer, members of the board. This is a continuation of the presentation from the June 28th board meeting regarding a pay station pilot program at De Cordova Bend Park at Lake Granbury. I'm here to provide the results from the 30-day comment period and our recommended plan of action for the pay station. This picture is an example of a pay station at a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer park with a receipt of payment. This machine's the industry standard and is widely used by the National Park Service, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and other agencies for processing of park entrance fees. I've had several years' experience with this very machine, and when I previously worked for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There are numerous reasons why we need a pay station, some of which are manage traffic better through potential carpooling, increase public safety by reducing drive-through visitors, better manage the length of stay of campers in our park through receipts, reduce public use of dumpsters for trash originating outside the park, and provide revenue for park upgrades and reduce recreational expenditure on water system rate customers. So these pictures were taken on July 4th, just a few weeks ago, mid-afternoon, estimated 160 cars. Traffic issues were observed for larger vehicles due to the increased amount of traffic due to the holiday, and trash dumpsters were overflowing, even with getting 2 extra dumpsters just to support the holiday weekend. This picture is just a representation of what we deal with. A lot of construction debris that originates outside the park gets brought in because they think it's a free dumpster. So this creates an unnecessary burden on our maintenance staff who have to go deal with this because a lot of the trash trucks won't pick this up. So trash piles up outside the dumpster, and we have to figure out how to get rid of trash that originates outside the park. So here's the results from the 30-day comment period from pretty much the last board meeting till July the 8th. So each of you should have been provided a summary of these comments for your review. In total, there were 120 comments that were through the official process, none of which were through social media. There were 27% support the fee, with such comments as this fee will help with overcrowding, make the park safer, and the fee is reasonable and affordable. 13% provided conditional support with feedback such as only charge certain day user groups, i.e. camping, boat launching, day users, use the fees to improve the facilities, and they propose an annual pass. 8% of the comments were mixed or suggestive, with comments such as an annual pass for senior and veteran discounts, only charge certain day user groups, and set hourly rates. And 52% oppose the fee with feedback: people cannot afford the $5 daily entrance fee, do not charge local residents, or we're just totally against the fee altogether. There were some reoccurring comments from the 120 official comments, such as keep it free, $5 daily entrance fee is too much for regular park users, recommendation of other management practices such as establish campsites, a reservation service, install a playground, more covered picnic tables. The fee is set too high for current amenities, concerns of security of the pay station, only charge campers, day users, people watching boats, better disclosure of operational cost, recommendation of an annual pass for regular users with discounts for veterans and seniors. To address some of these comments, all revenue collected will be reinvested back in the park for maintenance and future park upgrades. These pay stations are very secure. They're built out of steel containers. The credit card processor is required to be PCI compliant, which stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. And in the years that I've used this machine, I've never heard of or run into any security issues with this type of pay station, either physical security or the technological security. So in summary, we recommend moving forward with one pay station as a pilot program in D. Cordovan Park with an entrance fee of $5. This fee will help us better manage and enhance public safety for our park visitors. Just a reminder that we have 3 other BRA parks at Lake Granbury that are totally free, and there's 2 other city-owned parks that are totally free. This $5 user fee we consider the next gen item. Implementations projected for September. We'll provide a soft start kind of after the recreational season. Based on the 12 of the 120 comments, so about 10% regarding an annual pass with discounts, we plan to evaluate the feasibility of an annual pass. These are just some of the challenges offering an annual pass, some of which are logistics and how we would process getting an annual pass to the purchaser, a discount validation process, the cost of the annual pass, whether it be a windshield, sticker, hang tag, or other options. And since this is a pilot program, more data is needed to perform an evaluation of the feasibility in offering an annual pass. And any future annual pass would have to come back to the board as a new user fee. So I am happy to answer any questions before I read the resolution.
Director Tallis and then Director Ruiz.
I apologize if this was discussed in prior meetings, but so correct me or tell me what keeps me from just coming in and not paying.
Okay. So we want to have a gate arm. So it'll basically be a standalone fee machine, no gate arm. We don't have a gate attendant. So it's kind of on the honor system. But that second picture that prints out a receipt, it tells you on the fee machine and on the receipt to place in the dashboard. We have lake rangers that drive around and will monitor that. We know we're not going to catch everybody, but you know.
Does that create an added burden on the rangers? I mean, having to track that stuff over their normal activities?
I don't feel like it will, just because they're already in the park. They're already making that contact with people. And if they can several times a day walk through the park just looking at vehicles, you know, I think it will curtail a lot of the issues that we're having already.
Thank you. Director Ruiz.
This is per day, or just once you get in the park, you can just stay there? Because some people camp out.
It effectively goes to 11:59 p.m. and then the next day.
Next day they
So
have to
if they're
redo it
camping overnight, they would go back the next day
Okay.
and pay for another day. But it's $5. You get there at 6 a.m., you know, $5 a daily rate for launching a boat, using the swim beach, fishing, anything in the park.
Director Weldon.
Yeah, I want to highly encourage you to find a way to economically pursue this discount for veterans and seniors. I brought with me today a card I've got for the National Park Service, Lifetime Military, and then the Texas State Park Disabled Veteran Card. I mean, maybe you can say we'll honor those so you don't have the financial burden of publishing a card separately or a different system, just say I'm gonna honor it, but maybe there's a way, to do this economically, but I think it's the right thing to do, to consider seniors and veterans, as a part of that, because it's in line with what the National Park Service and the Texas, Park Service is doing.
Yep. Director Geesey?
Question. So if the park ranger does find a car or a vehicle that doesn't have what happens then?
So it depends on if they can make contact or not. Usually, least level of compliance is what we're looking for. So, hey, maybe you drove past the fee machine, didn't see the fee machine, give them benefit of the doubt. We'd like for you to go up there, either exit the park, or you can go up there, pay the $5, come back out. If they don't, give them a warning, kind of go from there. So it just depends on the interactions between
So
the
no
individual.
ticket is issued or anything like that?
Unless it's, blatant and it's a repeat, offender that's been given warnings, verbal warnings, written warnings, things like that. I mean, it might go to that, but for a $5 fee, we're just kind of weighing the odds on that, so.
Dylan, I have one last question before we go to the resolution.
Okay.
The pilot program will last how long?
I think with us implementation in September, we have to get through a full rec season to really capture, the pilot program as a whole. So I would recommend a year.
Okay. I think and to Director Talas's point, this is the second time that we have seen this, except for our new people. So I appreciate the study that y'all have done, the survey, and getting us back some information. And I agree with Director Weldon. I think it's the right thing to do moving forward, especially if we're reinvesting those funds right back into the park. The dumpster fees are going up and everything else. So very good. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to begin collecting a fee for entrance to D. Cordovaman Park at Lake Granbury.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Crone, a second made by Director Huber. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey, Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Leskey,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Talas,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on user fee adjustments by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello again, Board. This agenda item is part of what's going to end up being probably a 3-year evaluation of our user fees. We charge people for certain user-specific services, and we're going through this exercise to make sure that the fees that we are charging fully cover the cost of providing those services. We conducted, last year, we did a pretty extensive analysis of our entire water permit system of billing and brought that back for adjustments last year. We analyzed a number of fees this year, and we plan to review the remainder of those fees, bring recommendations as part of our fiscal year 2028 budget. And then we have everything on a schedule to be reevaluated at least once every 5 years. Each fee was evaluated for the average amount of staff time required and then any other expenses, office supplies, postage, invoice stock. The average cost to provide each service was calculated using fully burdened wage rates for BRA staff and then the actual cost of those other expenses. The recommended adjustments to the fees are based on a combination of the cost analysis and also efficiencies that might be gained by streamlining certain processes. And so in your in your materials, you can see that we evaluated quite a number of fees this year. A lot of them had to do with recreational things, the waterfowl hunting permit, mooring fees, also a lot of the things related to the septic systems at the different lakes. And the good news is that most of them, after evaluation, were found to be sufficient to cover the expenses related to them. So we are only recommending one change this year, and that's to our TCEQ Water Master fee. And we adjust that usually every year. And then we're also asking for permission for the $5 per vehicle for the pilot program at De Cordova Park at Lake Granbury.
Any questions
Are
for
there any
Michelle?
questions? Sorry.
Yes, Director Warren.
What is a water master fee?
That's the TCEQ has installed a water master for the Brazos River Authority, I believe from Possum Kingdom down to the Gulf. Has this been 4 years ago, Aaron?
2015.
2015, that long ago. And so this is a fee, it's a regulatory fee that we have to pay. So we have certain contracts, and in those water contracts, we are allowed to pass on any additional regulatory fees. And so we calculate that effect, and we charge those customers every year.
We know, of course, in my books, when I see the word fee, F-E-E, I think tax, T-A-X, three-letter word. You know, at the same time, I realize you're trying to balance costs because our whole initiative is we got to get water. We got to supply water for Texas and for all the municipalities, the private companies, everyone that's tapping us. And we got to make ourselves work because we're independent of the state of Texas as far as our revenue, as I understand. You know, so I understand that. I just don't want to be out there taxing people either through a gimmick to get into a park or a gimmick to whatever this is here, that unless it's something that's been placed on us and something that, of course, the overall objective is get water supply. That's always my goal. So I guess I'm doing a little caution on something like that.
So the TCEQ Water Master, think of them as the water police. They make sure that people aren't taking water that they're not supposed
That's
to
a good
take.
thing, yeah.
They're monitoring the daily use of water from the reservoirs and from the river. And this is a fee that's handed to us from the regulatory agency TCEQ, and this is us passing it along
Okay,
to
got you.
users. So we either implement this or we eat it ourselves.
I got you, okay. I agree. Thank you.
Michelle, I have a question. Are you suggesting in this resolution that the fee from the park is going to go to cover this water master fee?
No, ma'am. These are two separate. The first one, be it resolved, is the water master fee, and then the second one is for the new fee
Okay.
for, yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Please read the resolution.
All right. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that it has reviewed and hereby approves the following user fee adjustments beginning in fiscal year 2027. The TCEQ Water Master fee from 85 cents per acre foot to 92 cents per acre foot. Be it further resolved that a new fee be created for entrance to De Cordova Bend Dam Park at Lake Granbury in the amount of $5 per vehicle per day.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? The motion made by Director Tallis, a second by Director Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lusky,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Louise,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Tallis,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on De Cordova Bend Dam Trifecta Project Phase 2 by Blake Kettler, Chief Planning Officer.
All right. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the board. With this agenda item, we're requesting authorization to pursue 2 contracts with Walter P. Moore for Phase 2 of the Trifecta project at De Cordova Bend Dam at Lake Granbury. And with us today, we have Spencer Livermore with Walter P. Moore and also Stuart Vati with Gannett Fleming. They're our engineers working this for us. So most of you are probably aware, but just in case, I wanted to orient you with De Cordova Bend Dam at Lake Granbury and the projects that make up the Trifecta project. These include the Buttress 1 and 44 repairs project, the stop log replacement system project, and the Tanner Gate evaluation project. So we've combined these projects at De Cordova Bend Dam based on the interdependencies between these initiatives. And so kind of just to point out a few features here before we jump into the projects and what make up the Trifecta project. This is an aerial of De Cordova Bend Dam. You can see the bridge deck across the top. You can see the bays for the 16 Tanner gates there, and also the low flow facility down here at the side. You can also see Buttress 1 and Buttress 44 here, and then the upstream portions of the buttresses there. Here, these 2 sheds here are where we currently store our trolley system that we use to place stop logs for those Tanner gates. So in looking at these 3 projects and why we decided to tie them together, basically the outcome or the most important thing is evaluation of the Tanner gates. We're looking at rehabilitating or replacing the Tanner gates out there. In order for us to be able to do that, we need a good monorail system or a hoist system to place stop logs so we can take a gate out of service, stop the flow of water, be able to evaluate, replace, repair, whatever it may be. In order for us to put in a new monorail system, we have to make some concrete upgrades. So making some concrete repairs at Buttress 1, at Buttress 44, along the bridge deck itself, the bridge beams, some of the buttresses. So there's some concrete components that have to be repaired to get to the monorail system itself. So as some of you may recall, we initiated this project with Walter P. Moore back in 2024 with a Phase 1 assessment of the projects and their interdependencies to better understand the staging and sequencing of work. This condition assessment consisted of an evaluation of buttresses, piers, bridge deck, and retaining walls. And they also conducted a visual mechanical inspection of all the gates and hoists, as well as performance testing of the gates and structural capacity analysis. So just to hit on some of the high-level information on the project, the total anticipated budget for the Trifecta project is forecasted to be $19,344,000, with $3,131,000 available in FY26 and $5,222,000 in FY27. And we also have money budgeted in subsequent funding cycles as well. The $19 million includes the completed Phase 1 work, so we'll talk about some of the findings here. The proposed Phase 2 work, which that's what we're requesting here, and then construction of the concrete repairs and stop log replacement system. The construction options for Tanner gates is not included in the overall project cost here, since it's still kind of unknown what will be recommended in that regards. We'll get into that a bit more in some subsequent slides. This initiative is in line with Section 2B of our strategic plan, by ensuring the operation and maintenance of BRA water supplies and associated infrastructure in a safe, responsible manner in compliance with all applicable requirements. So here we're going to cover some of the key findings out of the Phase 1 condition assessment. Overall, the dam is in good shape. As with any assessment, you'll identify areas of focus or potential anomalies, but this is why we pursue these initiatives, to be proactive and verify our facilities continue to operate as intended into the future. Looking at the gates and associated stop logs, the gates were generally in good to fair condition considering their service life. These gates have been in service since the dam was built, so approximately 50 years. There's some localized corrosion and coating issues, but that's to be expected with the age of the Tanner gates and coatings. One thing noted through testing was that gates 7, 9, and 15 had elevated trunnion friction coefficients, and this will be remediated through Phase 2 and Phase 3 of this project. Also, one recommendation was to replace both sets of stop logs for the low flow system itself. So with regard to the concrete of the structure, as it relates to this project, overall the concrete is in good condition. The team identified areas of the buttresses and bridge deck that need concrete repairs, and we kind of talked to those a little bit earlier. And this will be one of the early construction packages pursued in preparation for the other components. So concrete first, then monorail, then Tanner gates. So those of you that are familiar with the trolley, it's no surprise it requires replacement. The existing trolley works, but it's been there since the 50s. It has obsolete components and may not be reliable except for the ability of our maintenance crews to diligently maintain, repair, and keep it functional. So hats off to the maintenance group out there at Lake Granbury for exceeding the useful service life of this equipment. In evaluation of the foundation, the sliding factor of safety did not meet the minimum value based on assumed foundation parameters. With that said, this is the reason we're doing this assessment work, to better understand our facilities and the current performance status. This anomaly will be further evaluated in phase 2. Okay, so this slide here shows where we are in space and time of the project and proposed team to support phase 2 of the project. Phase 2 is detailed design and permitting. Phase 3 is construction services support. Phase 3 will come to the board for a subsequent authorization in the near future once we complete phase 2. Walter P. Moore is the principal engineer and has partnered with Gannett Fleming and several other firms to provide the information necessary for BRA to make informed project decisions. We have just about every engineering discipline and subject matter expert on this project that you can think of, between civil, mechanical, structural, electrical, geotechnical, chemical, corrosion, communications, material testing, costing, constructability, diving, LiDAR, and surveying. So we've got a little bit of everything on this project. So at a high level, this is how we plan to structure the contracts for phase 2 and the overall objectives we plan to complete. The separate contracts is due to the sequencing and staging of the work for construction. We're moving items along at different paces, so this is what makes sense and is recommended by our engineer. So what you have here in the phase 2A, the first contract is design of all those miscellaneous concrete repairs. You also have the design of the monorail hoist system as well in the supplemental geotechnical investigation, one for the foundation and two for to provide some information needed for the monorail system, the design there. Phase 2B will be the Tanner gate options analysis, and what we're looking at doing there is we're going to run a rehabilitation option and a replacement option to 30%, and then we're going to look at and determine, based off a cost and risk analysis, what makes the most sense to move forward with here, ultimately with the goal of trying to exceed a certain service life for the facility. The reason we're doing that is they can be on two total ends of the spectrum as far as cost. A great example is at Limestone, 5 gates, just using round numbers, $20 million. So if you start putting that to 16 gates, you're talking about a substantial amount of money. So we're really trying to understand what's the best option to being fiscally responsible, good stewards of customers' dollars, to make sure, we're moving forward in the right path there. So this is the proposed high-level tasking and fees associated to complete phase 2 of the trifecta project. Looking at the top box, you have phase 2A at a total of $4,481,000 with a duration of 594 calendar days. So if you look at those durations, a lot of these tasks will happen concurrently. So if you try to start adding them up to reach that bottom dollar, it won't make sense, but we'll be issuing notice to proceed at the same time. The phase 2B contract is for a duration of 366 calendar days at a cost of $890,000. So with a total proposed fee for 2A and B of $5,371,000. I do have a resolution for consideration. You can see we've added a 10% contingency of $537,100 to the fee should we need additional testing or need additional examination.
Blake, would you mind going back to the slide previous?
Yes.
Break out that duration a little bit. So is that an additional year for the phase 2?
Yes, ma'am. It will, phase 2A will run over about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Uh-huh. And then the bottom?
It'll be right at about a year for us to complete that work for phase 2. Understanding that we'll be at a 30% design, that's when we're going to have that that cost and risk analysis workshop discussion on what makes sense. So there will still be some additional design work associated with the Tainer gates. The ultimate goal is to roll out the concrete work and the monorail work first in preparation for the Tainer gates to follow behind it.
Okay. Director Weldon has a question.
A quick question. I didn't hear you mention it's a tremendous amount of work going on here to assess service life, 50-year-old facility. How are we capturing that data to help inform us about future life cycle of the dam? Is there any information that's tied to next gen, the implementation of it? And could you just speak to that? Because this is a great kind of snapshot of where we actually are to help us maybe predict what
Yes,
the
sir.
future would look like.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that question. We work heavily with NextGen and all the risk-based asset management stuff we do on the capital planning side. So we do have our risk-based asset management and capital planning program. NextGen is the software, the source we use to house all that information, the database for it. So all of our the costs associated with this project, the life cycle we're trying to achieve out of a Tainer gate or any asset is captured in there. And as those pop up for whether that be a rehabilitation or replacement, we lay that out onto our capital improvement plan. So yes, all the information, likelihood of failure, consequence of failure, any redundancy we have for a particular asset, the install date, service dates, overall cost, lifespan, all that information is captured in there and helps us build our capital improvement plan.
Director Lattimore has a question.
Yes, sir.
If I remember right, the monorail and these other things were the result of our ongoing evaluation, but the Tainer gates were primarily the result of the assumption that the metal that was used back in the 50s and early 60s, there was a bad decision on the metallurgy. And have we evaluated all of the Tainer gates, or is it just the ones that we've seen the failures in?
So we've evaluated all the Tainer gates, and I believe if I'm understanding you correctly about the metal, I think you're talking about maybe potentially limestone, where it's the core 10 steel.
These have core 10 steel is what I'm
Yes,
talking
these are different here. These are regular straight mild steel or steel, and they're coated. So it's a different system, a little bit different makeup. These gates are a lot larger than the ones down there at Limestone.
Okay. And so when we're talking about Tainer gate rehabilitation, are we doing all the Tainer gates, or is it just the few that
I think
we're
we
having
would
problems with?
We'll know more through phase 2, but I would think if we're going to put in or implement a rehabilitation program, it would look somewhat similar for all the gates. So if that's replace, I'm just throwing out an example, trunnion arms or certain structural members or things like that, recoating, they would all get conditioned to the same standard, so that way we can achieve the service life for the full facility.
Let me put a point on the pencil here.
Okay.
Is this just the beginning of what we're seeing in the problems, or is this the whole of it? In other words, are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg, or is this the whole issue that we're going to see as far as cost is concerned for this dam? I don't know that I'm being clear.
This 19 million, and
You want me to speak to what?
this 19 million is us doing the concrete work and all the way through the engineering and looking at to 30% evaluation of the Tainer gates. Then we will come back and say, okay, it is more cost effective to replace the gates because we'll get 50 years or 100 years if we replace the gates versus this cost and this life expectancy if we do recoatings, if we fix any trunnion arm issues that we have. So that's what we're trying to do, is the cost analysis of, do you replace the total gate, or can you go in and get a real bang for your buck return on investment cost for doing some type of upgrade. The replacement of the Tainer gates and any construction to upgrade the gates are not included in this 19 million.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Director LaChance has a question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think you confused me, David. So, okay, let me go back over this math. So we have 3 million that we have in 26, right, for phase 1. Phase 2 is the 5.9. Yeah, there. So that puts us at 9 million of the 19. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so what you have here is, so this was started back in '24, so some of this is covered
Yeah.
under prior fiscal years. FY '26 is what's in the budget for this current fiscal year we're in, so that covers a portion of phase 1 and hopefully to kick off some of phase 2. Additional funds or additional timing would come in FY '27 of that 5.2 million. To cover what we need through phase 2, and ultimately we would have subsequent years. So if we need money in FY '28 or '29 or '30 to work through phase 3 into construction, we would have that as well. The 19 million is a capture of when we started this initiative, so FY '24 to getting us through, like we talked about, for construction of the miscellaneous concrete repairs and the monorail system, and that's where the line is in the sand. We haven't incorporated the Tanner Gate cost yet, just because it's still a big unknown. We're not sure what that looks
So when
like
you
yet.
spend 19 million, what's at the finish line of 19 million?
You have all the concrete repairs and a completed monorail system and all the design work for the Tanner Gates.
That makes more sense. And are we calling this maintenance in the capital? Is that where the bucket that you're throwing this in?
None of this is, one piece of this, if I'm not mistaken, like the Tanner Gate evaluation is, sorry. One piece of this, I believe the Tanner Gate evaluation, because it's more of a study, is being included in the operating projects, and the other two portions, the hoist and the buttress, are included in the capital projects.
Thank you.
It's like doing 20 checkerboards
Director
at
Henderson?
once. Trying to-
Yeah.
So I think this is a question for you, David. The $5 fee we just approved, would that help the 27 and beyond numbers? Could we use that money for something like this? Is that?
No, the $5 fee for the parks is to invest in the parks so that our ratepayers don't have to spend as much for our parks. As a reservoir owner, we have an obligation to provide services to the lake, and one of those is recreation and parks and things like that. So we're hoping that the $5 can help improve the parks. It can also help control some of the issues that we're having at the parks. But I think our projected income for that is less than $200,000 a year. So less than $200,000 a year is a rounding error here for this type stuff.
Fair. Thank you.
All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager or CEO to execute any necessary professional services agreements with Walter P. Moore to perform engineering services for Phase 2 of the De Cordova Bend Dam Trifecta Project in an amount not to exceed $5,908,100.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Director LaChance has made a motion, a second by Dr. Ruiz. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lusky,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Tallis,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, report and possible discussion on 2026 Water Management Plan Update Application to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality by Brad Brunette, Chief Operations Officer.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Some of you that have been here for a while, and maybe even Jeff back, remember our system operation permit and the associated water management plan that we worked so hard to obtain many years ago. it's time for us to update that plan. We've got a deadline due with the TCEQ later this year, and so that's what we're going to be talking about here. It's just this is just a report. We're not asking for any action. We'll actually be coming back to the board later in the year for action to submit the formal update, but this is just to give you guys an idea of what we're working on and where we're headed with it. And my part is just to talk a little bit about the history, and then Aaron Abel's going to talk a little bit more about specifically what we're doing on the update that we're working on right now. So about 22 years ago, we submitted an application for what would ultimately become our system operation permit. And the goal for that permit application was to get authorization we needed to use the reservoir system that we've had in place for many, many years, along with run-of-the-river flows that occur in the river when it rains and wastewater return flows to essentially generate a larger, reliable supply of water. It was a really complex and lengthy process that had a lot of twists and turns along the way. One of those things where we ended up in a good place when we got to the finish line, but you couldn't have really imagined all the twists and turns that we took as we were going through that. And ultimately, it ended up in what's arguably, and it may not even be that arguable, the most complex water right permit in the state of Texas is what we ended up with. And it really produced a substantial new supply of water for us and our customers at a very, very minimal cost and without the environmental impacts and things like that you see with traditional projects like new reservoirs and like what we're going to be dealing with at Allen's Creek over the next few years. So again, just hopefully this is more history than you want, but this is the first of 3 timeline slides that just kind of shows some of the major milestones and events that were associated with the permitting process. Again, we submitted the application in June of 2004. We rolled along a few months that year, and in October 2004, the application was deemed administratively complete, and that established our priority date for the water right. So some of y'all may remember hearing about junior rights, senior rights, that kind of thing. The priority date is what establishes where you are in line. So our priority date was October 15, 2004. So that permit is junior to everything that happened before it and will be senior to everything that happens after it. The TCEQ posted notice of the application in April 2005, so it was a public process open to protests and contestants and things like that. We had a public meeting in Waco in 2005, right after notice was published, and then we had a period rock along about 5 years before the TCEQ issued a draft permit in February 2010. We had a number of entities that protested the permit, so it was sent to the State Office of Administrative Hearings, and we spent a substantial amount of effort during that period of time working with the protestants and negotiating with them, and we resolved a lot of the protests outside of the SOA process, but there were a number of entities that stayed on for the ride, so we went through that hearing process that began the first one in May of 2010 and concluded in October of 2011. Some of you may also remember that in 2011, we were in the midst of the worst drought that the Brazos Basin, or at least the upper basin, has ever seen. Lake levels were low, tensions were high, and we had a lot of folks, particularly in the upper basin, that were really watching everything that we did, which complicated this process just because it was terrible timing with that drought going on. The SOA judges ultimately recommended, and TCEQ required us at that time to develop the water management plan, and that's really what we're talking about today, that we've got to update. And so this was something that was kind of new that was put into the process at this point. So we went to work on that and submitted a water management plan in 2012 that essentially describes how we're going to operate under the permit. That's kind of what the water management plan does. So the TCEQ then issued public notice again for the amended application, which included the water management plan that we developed in July of 2013. In May of 2014, we were required to update the water management plan again to incorporate environmental flow provisions that resulted from some new rules that the legislature established in 2007 with Senate Bill 3 that dictated how TCEQ had to handle flows for the environment in these new water right permit applications. And also the Water Master was mentioned earlier, our Water Master fees. The Water Master process came along and started around the 2014-15 timeframe while this was going on as well. So we had make sure I'm at the right place here. We had a second SOA hearing that concluded in July of 2015. And then there was another kind of mini SOA hearing that occurred in the first half of 2016 that were addressing a couple of specific issues that were still outstanding. And finally, the permit was issued to us in 2016. But then once we got the permit, there were some things that were a little different from the last version of that water management plan. So once again, we had to update the water management plan to get it in line with the permit. And that's really where we kind of crossed the finish line on all this in the first round in 2018. So again, it was a very long, complex process, but it was a very, very beneficial project for our basin. The end result was 100,000 acre feet of additional firm water supply from our system. And we went through a water sale process for selling that water in the 2019-2020 timeframe. We entered new contracts with many of our existing customers that needed more water, plus we had some new entities that had been added to our list. And so we sold all that water in that time frame. And so when you look at, talking about cost of projects, this project versus an Allen's Creek, our total expenses for all the technical and legal work that went into that, 14-year period to obtain the permit, as well as the engineering and legal work to date that we've been working the last couple of years for this update, was about $18 million. When you look at the revenue from our water sales over the last 6 years or so, it's close to $60 million. So a really big bang for our buck. And if you want to compare it to an Allen's Creek, it's about the same amount of water that we're expecting to get from Allen's Creek, 100,000 acre feet, but at probably 2 or 3% of the cost. And so this was a really good thing that the organization did to essentially maximize the efficiency of our system and get everything we could out of it before we have to start spending the bigger money on the bigger projects in the future. So that's kind of a quick history lesson, and Aaron can talk a little bit more about where we're headed with this update.
Thanks, Brad. The remainder, as Brad mentioned, we'll focus on describing the major components of the permit. We'll talk about some of the requirements within the permit, including updating the water management plan, and we'll update you on the next steps in the update process. So, the system operation permit or water use permit 5851 includes all of these components you see in the blue boxes. So we'll kind of march through all of these. It does include a water management plan. It includes a supporting technical report and its associated appendices, and then a water accounting plan. So starting off, as far as the water use permit, we call water use permit 5851 the system operation permit. For short, we call it SysOps. So you may hear me call water use permit 5851 the permit, or SysOps permit. So, and we kind of all, kind of do that. So just from a nomenclature standpoint, we wanted to point that out. The permit itself is a water right permit, and like other water right permits in the state, it establishes the authorizations in terms of how much water we can divert, the various conditions that dictate the volumes and that can be diverted, the associated rates, locations, and as Brad mentioned, the priority date. It also includes requirements that guide the implementation and maintenance of the permit, and that will include the update. So essentially, the permit and its conditions and authorizations ensure that our use of the permit or the system operation permit complies with TCEQ rules and regulations. The water management plan is, as Brad mentioned, it's an overarching document that outlines the operating principles for the permit. It's incorporated into and is a part of the permit. That's an important distinction. It's part of the permit and it's incorporated into, and it governs the principles upon which decisions are made for the use of the water appropriated under the system operation permit. So the document itself is comprised of 5 sections, and you see them here. So there's an overview section, has a brief history. The section 2 is sources of supply and water rights. So it details all of these different functions and of the permit. water supply contracting, water supply operations, and then finally the water rights accounting and reporting. One of the conditions of the SysOps permit is that the water management plan be updated every 10 years. This is laid out explicitly in Special Condition 5D3. So the permit itself is, I don't know, about 15 to 18 pages, and there's one provision that talks specifically about updating the water management plan every 10 years. And so this update process also includes any updates to the main components of the system operation permit and any changes to the permit itself. So all those blue boxes, if there's any changes in those blue boxes, that's an update to the permit. Another document that supports the water management plan is the technical report and its appendices. So the technical report provides technical and background information on the various analyses and supporting information that was conducted during the water management plan's development. So that includes hydrology, demand updates, water availability analysis. There's a lot of detailed technical information that is contained within the technical report. The sections mirror the water management plan. So think of the technical report is a large document, very large document. The water management plan itself is about 50 to 60 pages. So the technical report is a more detailed report and information source. The technical report also includes appendices that support the technical report and the water management plan. And finally, another component of the permit is a water accounting plan, which is included as an appendix to the technical report. In the system operation permit itself, there's a special condition related to the water accounting plan. Due to the complicated nature of the system operation permit, we are required to have a water accounting plan. And it consists of multiple Excel files that are used to record and track BRA's water use, diversions, return flows, and other water supply data, releases, evaporation, inflows. Anything that you can think of water related, it probably goes into the water accounting plan. This is an after the fact accounting that is maintained by BRA and is submitted to TCEQ and is available to the public upon request. Now, information about the system operation permit and water management plan can be found on the BRA website at brazos.org. We had maintained information about the system operation permit and the first water management plan, what we call the 2018 water management plan, and all the supporting information really over the last 8 or 10 years. But considering the update process in this 2026 update, it was decided that this portion of the website needed to be updated itself. So our IT department, water services, legal staff, and public information office worked to implement these website changes. So over the next few slides, we'll walk through where you can find and access the data related to the system operation permit and the water management plan. So this is the landing page on brazos.org. So if you type in brazos.org, you'll see this. And then on the middle ribbon on the left side, you'll see water supply. So kind of migrate to that portion, and then you see this website or this page, and then at the bottom you'll have these tiles, these 6 tiles, and you just click system operation, and you end up at this new page. So you can find the 2018 water management plan that was conformed and approved. We do have a section on frequently asked questions. The timeline, so much of the timeline that Brad went through is included in the website. And then we also have a questions portal, which is a place to submit questions related to the system operation permit, the water management plan, and the 2026 update of the water management plan. So it's an area you can go and submit a question, and that question there's a process to get that question answered, and so that's something important. And then also we have an area that relates to the environmental aspects of the system operation permit. So as Brad mentioned in Senate Bill 3 was the environmental flow rules and standards that were approved by TCEQ, and that was kind of in the middle of our system operation permit. So we worked real closely with Texas Parks and Wildlife, TCEQ, and others to make sure that this permit has conditions related to the environmental flow conditions. We have reports related to our operations and how those operations don't impact environmental flow conditions. So there's a lot of information in that tile as well. So as far as the update, the 2026 update, this is a timeline that we'll brief. So part of the 2026 update to the water management plan, we did select Freeze and Nichols in 2022 to provide for the technical work in the update. So work began in late 2023. The board authorized the contract with Freeze and Nichols in November of 2023. The board also approved Texas Parks and Wildlife dedication to dedicate about 6,000 acre feet of water for in-stream flow use. This dedication was stemmed from the initial application of the system operation permit in coordination with Texas Parks and Wildlife since the initial application back around 2005 is when all that coordination started. We are required to submit the 2026 Water Management Plan Update application by November 30th, 2026. We'll get it in before Thanksgiving. That's what Destiny tells me. So, and we will. That is required as part of the conditions in the system operation permit. So, where are we now? BRA staff and Freeze and Nichols staff are working to finalize the various technical analyses. Work is ongoing to complete the application materials and the draft revisions of the water management plan, the technical report, the accounting plan, and appendices. And we'll be coming to the board in September to get approval to submit the application for the 2026 update. So this is just a preview of what will be contained in the September meeting. We'll present details of the application and overview of the modifications that will be made to the water management plan, the technical report, the accounting plan, and its appendices. And as Brad mentioned, this is a report. We don't have a resolution, but we can answer any questions.
Brad and Aaron, thank you for giving us the update. This update was also in your board packet, so hopefully you had a chance to review it before today. Are there any questions for either one of those guys? All right, thank y'all Director Weldon.
One quick question. I mean, the explanation of the economics of this is phenomenal. Does the review process allow us, or would there ever be an opportunity to increase the 100,000 acre feet to a greater number? Or are we locked into the number and we just have to justify it forever? Or can it increase? Because you talked about the dedication from Parks and Wildlife.
On the first question, I wouldn't say that there would never be a chance to increase it, but I think it would be unlikely that we'll be able to. Really, our goal going into these updates is to maintain what we have. We definitely don't want to lose ground, so we're trying to maintain what we have, and that's the goal. It's possible that we find an angle at some point that would help us a little bit more, but probably not real likely.
Thank you for the question. Before we go into executive session, we are going to take a 5-minute break. And when we do come back, we'll be asking those not associated with the executive session to wait in the break room. So for now, we will go take a break. It's 12:03. Will conduct a closed meeting and executive session for the following matters: to conduct with the attorney with respect to the 2026 Water Management Plan Update application to the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.071, consultation with attorney under the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. B, to deliberate regarding the position of the general manager, CEO pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.074 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified as Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. If you're not specifically involved in the presentation of the first executive agenda item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. With each executive session item, time will be allowed to clear the room and call the next presenters. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear of the executive session until the executive session is finished. The Board of Directors will now enter into executive session at 12:13. Thank you. All right. The Board of Directors hereby reconvenes into open session at 1:20 p.m. And there is a resolution to be considered. And before I read that resolution, David, I want to say that I think the general consensus was that we're very happy with your performance. You've done an outstanding job, and we see that you're developing a team to be stronger than you, which is what we want. So collectively, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Does anybody have any personal comment that you would like to share? We will have a more detailed work list, but anybody comments?
The only comment I would make, maybe is the fact that we're working on what our goals and how to meet our challenges for 26, 27, with all the moving parts we have to deal with in the Texas economy today in the state of Texas to keep our supply competitive. So we'll be reconvening at some point in time to go over those, how we deal with these challenges and get your input, how we need to deal with those. Is that a fair, Madam Chair, how we do that?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that the sustained exemplary performance by the General Manager, CEO, warrants an annual salary increase of 9% of his existing salary and justifies a one-time merit bonus of 18% of his salary as of August 1st, 2026. I see a motion by Director Huber, a second by Director Crone. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson, Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Absolutely, yes.
Director Huber,
Affirmative.
Director Key,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes, ma'am.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lusky,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Tallis,
Yes.
Director
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Director Tallis, second by Director Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?